there's something you should do before departing on any trip so you don't lose your mind. Even me, after all these years traveling 55 countries and counting so far, I still continue to make mistakes. And that's why I want to share with you my travel checklist, all the items that you should check off and look over in the days, hours, and minutes before leaving the safety and comfort of your home on a big adventure. The reason I'm making this video is because recently, even me, after all these years, I continue to make mistakes. And in this case, a 30 € taxi ride turned into a 60 € taxi ride. And I'll get to that a little bit later on. So let's go over my travel checklist and a travel checklist you can create so you're ready to depart on your next adventure. Grab a pen and paper, grab your computer phone app for keeping notes, whatever it takes, and let's go over the list that's gonna make you a successful traveler. We're gonna go down the list in order of importance, some of the ones that you can't depart without, and further on in the list, we're gonna get to some of those items that apply more to me, but will get you thinking about items that you should put on your list that will apply specifically to you. And number one on the list is visa. Where you're going, what's your destination? Does it require a traveler's visa, a tourist visa? You're gonna have to look into that, and that's something that, depending upon the country, you may need a couple of weeks to apply for the visa. It could require you giving your passport in advance and waiting for your passport and the visa to return. And sometimes you even have to buy your plane ticket in advance for some countries before you can get that traveler's visa, the tourist visa. So check your destination, where you're going. Do you need a visa? Number two on my list, my travel checklist, have I checked in for my flight? And do I have checked baggage? When you're buying your plane ticket, you'll have the option to have checked baggage or not. Some flights it comes included, so you don't have to think about it. In the days, hours before leaving for your flight, make sure you're checked in. Now, some airlines don't allow you to check in until 24 hours to go before the flight. Some allow 48 hours before the flight. And usually in that window, you need to pay attention and check in. And sometimes I forget. I think about it 3 days out, and then I forget in the last 12 hours out. So make sure you've checked in for your flight. That'll allow you to pick your seat and give the airline the intention that you're going to be there for the flight, because if the flight's full, sometimes they start bumping people. You checked in for your flight. Do you have checked luggage? Because if you're traveling with checked luggage, you're going to need to make sure checked luggage is included. That helps you avoid the problem of being there at the check-in counter and realizing you don't have checked luggage and having to pay the high fee for checked luggage there at the counter. It's much less expensive to pay in advance for the checked luggage if it's not already included in the flight. And that's a lesson learned the hard way. So on my list that I check, it's on a phone app on Google Keep, my checklist for the Android phone, the Apple phone, the iPhone will have a similar app, a checklist. I go through that list in the day before I go, and the hours and minutes before I leave my house, and that's right on there. The other thing, check the dimensions and everything on your bags. Make sure you're going to meet the criteria of the airline. Recently, I like to have the app of the airline company I'm traveling with. So if I'm traveling with Etihad Airline, I like to download and have that Etihad Airline app on my phone. So when I'm at the airport, while I'm waiting in line to even check in, I'll look at the app, I'll check my seat selection, and sometimes they'll have special offers via that app that you won't get on the website of the airline company. Now, for checking in, though you may have booked your flight through a third-party company like Booking or Kayak or Expedia, you want to check in via the airline that you're flying with. So if you're flying with American Airlines, you'll go to the American Airlines website and check in there. Easy done. Now, this one may seem like an obvious one and a simple one, but it's one that it catches us off guard. Is having your passport when you're traveling. You want to check that list before you leave to make sure you have your passport, because even on my recent trip, I didn't have my passport in my bag. I had it on my desk, and so I had to put it in my bag at the last minute. But thankfully, because I checked my list, I saw that I needed my passport. Now, if you're traveling within your own country, you're not going to need your passport. You can get by with just your ID card, or in the United States, your driver's license. So it's not an issue. But if you're traveling abroad, you're definitely going to have your passport. Also, some countries require that you have a few extra blank pages for a visa or for the stamps. So make sure you have 2 or 3 blank pages in your passport. And if you're getting your passport nearly filled up, don't worry, you can go to your local office and they'll give you more pages in your passport, or you can get an updated passport to get those blank pages you'll need. But that requires time and that requires forethought. This is one of my 2 big items that you definitely have to have before you leave. Passport, and the second one is your wallet. I'd say you can leave the door with nothing else but your passport and wallet and you're okay. With your wallet and your credit card, you need the credit card, your passport and your credit card, you can buy anything you need. So if you have your credit card, you have your passport, you're good to go. Now, your wallet, of course, is important. Have some cash in there, have credit cards. You're gonna need a credit card that works abroad, so check with your bank before you travel outside of your home country if your credit card works in that country. Also, let them know you're traveling abroad so they don't put a block on the credit card and you have to call them from some foreign location to say, hey, I'm trying to, buy this gift for my wife or husband and my credit card's not working, or I can't check into my hotel because my credit card's not working. You don't want to be in that situation. I've been there before. Now, let me tell you the story that got me to the point of making this video. And after years of using a travel checklist, there were still some things that I had on the list or I needed to add on the list, and it's always evolving. And I thought I had credit cards in my wallet on the list, but somehow I don't think I did. And what happened the other day is I was traveling from my home in Florence to the airport to get a flight to Brussels that would then take me here to Saudi Arabia. And I'm up in the northwest in this area called Alula. We're staying in the Ashar Valley. This is the Habitas Hotel. Well, about midway to the airport, I was in a great conversation with the taxi driver. She was super friendly, talking about traveling and things. And then I realized I don't have my wallet. I was like, dang, the night before I had pizza with a friend, David. I used a different jacket. I left it in the jacket, and then I didn't think about my wallet. It wasn't there by the front door when I went to leave the house. And I didn't have my wallet, credit cards on my checklist. I left the house, left without my wallet, and I had to ask the taxi driver to turn around so I could go back to my house and get my wallet. And the 30 euro taxi ride, which is expensive in Italy already, became 60 euro because I needed to get back and get my credit card. Now, one of the things I do recently is I carry extra older credit cards I don't use often, and those were in my luggage. I had already had those, and that's a pro tip for you, is to carry extra credit cards. So I had those. I could have gotten by, but I wanted to get my main credit card, also my driver's license in case somehow I was going to be driving a car up here, but I didn't have to worry about that. But I wanted to get that main credit card, so we had to turn around, go back and get my credit card. And in that taxi ride, and I said to the taxi driver, well, the important thing is that you continue to learn from your mistakes. And so I'm continuing all the time to learn and to keep growing. And so in that taxi ride, I pulled up my travel checklist and I added credit cards to my travel checklist, which should have already been on there. And I think it was on there at one point before already. And somehow I just took it off. Think about where you're going to stay and the address of that location and get their phone number. So this is an item you need on your list: hotel address and phone number. When you're going to a foreign country, when you get to immigration there, a lot of times they'll ask you to fill in a form saying what will be your lodging while you're here in this country, in Saudi Arabia or Italy or Australia. And you don't have to give them every address you're going to be at, but give them the first one. And so have that and have it offline, because it could be when you get to that country, you don't already have internet. So you're going to want to have it offline, written down, along with the telephone number ready to go. And I made that mistake recently in China on my trip there. I forgot to get the address. When I got there, I couldn't get online to get it. And it took a lot of time before I could figure it out. And I was set to go and I could pass immigration. Now, we're going to get further down this list. Again, it's going to be items that may apply more to me than to you, but it'll get you thinking about items that you should put on your list. I don't normally travel with medicine, or I don't have medications I need to travel with. That's one a colleague said to me this morning, that, hey, that could be something that you, my viewer, might want to have on your list. So perhaps that's one of them. Oh, this is amazing in here. Look at these rock formations. One thing I check before I leave my house is that all the windows are closed and locked, because sometimes you might have them closed, but they're not locked. So make sure you have your windows closed and locked if you're going to be the last person in the house and no one else is home while you're away. In these winter months, especially with the prices high, and in the summer months with the prices high on air conditioning, check to make sure you have that unit off. I turn off my heat before I go away if it's a long trip of a week or more, just to save some cash. I don't need that thing running when I'm at home. Even if I turn the thermostat down, I turn off my heating unit so I don't have the little gas pilot light running. The same could be with your air conditioning before you leave the house in the summer, because you don't want that thing running all the time unless you have to have it going for some reason. I also turn off the power strip leading to my computer, so you're gonna have the heat or the air conditioning on and off. That's a checklist item. Think about power strip to your computer in case there's a power surge while you're gone. It could happen when you're at home, sure, but while you're gone, just go ahead and flip that power switch off on your computer so you don't have power going to your computer. You don't ruin your computer while you're away with some sort of power surge, and it does happen. It happens especially where I live in Italy quite often. The other thing I do is I unplug my Wi-Fi router. Well, I did that in the past. I no longer do it because I'm using a NAS RAID server and I need to keep that thing running all the time. That's a checklist on your item, is turn off the Wi-Fi. The other item I do is I turn off the power in the kitchen going to the appliances. I unplug the refrigerator. So think about these items: powering off, unplugging the Wi-Fi, turning off the power strip going to your computer. Put those items on your list. Now you may say, why don't you just turn off the whole power to your entire house? Well, in my instance, I still need that Wi-Fi going to my NAS RAID system, so I keep that thing going. But that could be an option for you to consider. One other item, a big appliance that I turn off, and I used to keep it running for 3 weeks when I was away, is my refrigerator. I unplug it now. I don't have that thing going while I'm away on these trips. I just unplug the fridge. Another item I do is I turn off the water to the house. I used to just turn off the water to the washing machine in case a hose broke. I don't want the water going everywhere. Now I just turn off the water to the entire house. It only takes a moment, and I have that security. There's not going to be a problem when I'm away. Water off, electricity off. You have those items. If it's an option for you, do it. If it's not an option, well, you can skip those items on the list and move on to the next items in your travel checklist. Okay, we're getting down to the part of the list that these are nice to haves, not a must, but I have them on my travel checklist before I leave home. A local currency, you can always use your credit card, debit card to pull out local currency when you arrive to where you're going, but if you have the option, especially if you're going to Europe, you can go to your local bank, pull out some euros, or if you've already had a trip to these places, I save all the extra local currency I've had from my past trips. And before I leave the house, I check, hey, do I still have some of those bills or coins? And I bring them along. The next item is a phone SIM or eSIM. You may want to apply for an eSIM before you go to the country you're visiting, so you're already on the ground and have connection to the internet when you arrive. There's a lot of great eSIM providers out there. Check them out and perhaps apply for one. Local power adapters, plug adapters. What kind of adapter are you going to need when you're in these different countries? In Saudi Arabia, they use the British type plug, and I'll tell you the story. When I arrived here, that was an item on my checklist. I had an adapter, but I didn't have enough of them, so make sure you have 2 or 3 of the local area you're going to, and if you don't already have those at home, you can usually pick them up in the airport when you arrive in the country that you're visiting. But it's an item to have on your checklist, is that power plug adapter, so your plugs for your smartphones and everything fit into the adapters of the outlets when you get to your location. The other item I always carry with me is a power strip, so that way you only need one adapter. You can plug your power strip into the adapter, and then your plugs for your smartphones and all those other items will easily fit into that power strip, so you don't have to carry the multiple adapters. And that was the item I forgot to bring with me here to this trip in Saudi Arabia, when normally I would carry that and it would have saved me. Luckily, reception here, they were able to bring me a few extra power plug adapters so I could get all my items charged up. If you guys are enjoying this video, all these sort of travel hacks and tips, please give this a thumbs up down below. Also, if you want to subscribe so you're getting more of this content traveling around the world, and if you like what I'm doing and you want to help support the channel so we're growing and getting these videos out to all their travel and food lovers like us, please consider subscribing down below as well. Thank you. A few other items for you to put on your list. Move bike inside. Now that's a list item specifically for me because I have a city bike that's parked outside, and if I'm away for a couple weeks, I don't need it parked outside because it's going to increase the risk of it getting stolen there in Italy. So I move it inside if I'm away for more than a few days. That may not apply to you, but that'll get you thinking about something like that maybe is outside in front of your house or your apartment that you need to move inside so you don't want it sitting out there for multiple days. Throw away perishable foods in your cupboards or in your refrigerator if your refrigerator is going to remain plugged in, and make sure you get rid of those items so you don't come home to a bunch of moldy items that you have to throw away later. So throw those away before you leave the house. Also, I have a little food compost in my kitchen that I make sure I empty before I leave. Again, I don't want to come home to a smelly, moldy mess. So that item is on my checklist for that reason. Move your plants inside the house. If you have some potted plants and it's the winter, you're going to want to move them inside next to a window so they're getting daylight. And if you're like me, I just have succulent plants that don't need much water because I'm on the go so much. But move those inside next to a window so they're getting light. If it's the warm summer months, think about a watering system. Is it just a few days you're going to be okay? If it's more than that, think about who's going to water those plants. But the final big one, the overall theme here, passport, credit cards, and the big one, check that list before you leave the house, because there's been a lot of times where I've forgotten even to check my travel list before leaving the house. So get that a part of your program before you travel. If you want to consider travel insurance, and a lot of times I'm using it when I'm visiting these countries, I suggest Safety Wings Nomad Insurance. I'm going to put a link down below to that. It's great. It covers you for multiple countries when you're traveling. Also covers you for stints back home during your trips. So check it out, link down below if you need travel insurance. Highly recommended when you're always on the go and traveling. What about what to do when you get sick while you're traveling and worrying about eating all these exotic foods? How are you going to deal with all of that? Well, watch this video here and I explain everything.